Even though the game only had 4 divine beasts acting as main dungeons, the overworld was stuffed with a whopping number of 120 shrines. These shrines contained various sizes of rooms with many different puzzles, and some of these even had quests to do in order to uncover a shrine, only to be rewarded quickly for doing the quest itself.
We kind of liked this idea, but we weren't fond of this being a sort of replacement for regular dungeons, especially when all the shrines pretty much share the same aesthetics and music, making them feel a lot of the same even if they have different puzzles and different elemental themes.
Even so, the shrines had a lot of good puzzles to offer, and so did the quests. Therefore, we decided to make a video about our favorite shrines, but we're going to make 2 different top 5 lists here.
One of them will be for the shrines that are just placed in the overworld, containing some fun puzzles, while the other will be about the actual quests we have to do before uncovering the shrine. Most of the shrine quests have shrines that only give you a reward without any further puzzles, but for the shrine quests list, we're only focusing on the quests themselves.
And for the shrine list, we only look at what kinds of puzzles they offer. We go for the ones we happen to enjoy the most, whether if they were clever, tricky, or just fun. We hope that clears things up and that you're ready to see which ones we picked. We're the owners of Triforce, I'm owner 2.
And I'm owner 1, and here's our top 5 shrines and top 5 shrine quests from Breath of the Wild.
At number 5 we actually have 2 shrines. It's not because we couldn't decide on which one, but because you need to go into both to solve each other's puzzle.
At the Dueling Peaks we find the Twin Memories, a couple of shrines that have the same puzzles, but where you find the answer to them in the other shrine.
This is hinted at with the stone tablet at the entrance. What you need to do is to look at the formation of where these orbs are placed and copy that placement in the other shrine, and vice versa. So you'll have to run back and forth between them if you have trouble remembering.
Or you can do as I did, find a piece of paper and a pencil and mark it down. I might be sort of old school and say that I actually enjoy having to write things down when I play games, so this was a cool duo of shrines to me.
And we thought this was a clever thing to do. They need to be creative when they create 120 shrines, and we really think they succeeded with this. It was also very appropriate when you look at the placement of these shrines, at top of the Dueling Peaks.
Next up is the shrine called Windmills. Wind puzzles are sometimes fun, and when it's about turning around fans to get windmills in motion like this, we end up enjoying it a lot.
With the fans placed around at different places and being able to be rotated between 4 different angles, you really need to think and try out different combinations of positions to make all the windmills affected by the wind at the same time.
The funny thing is that I was really puzzled with this. It might be easy to some, but it was funny to me how I play this, and after trying a lot of different combos, I just stood for a while, looking and trying to figure out in my head what I needed to do. When I made the first of several moves I had planned in my head, I had suddenly done it before I even knew it.
I did this during one of our live streams, and it was hard paying attention to the puzzle while we were talking to the chat. But all of a sudden, I had it done just by doing something. That might say something more about us than a puzzle though, but either way, we found this shrine fun because of this good puzzle.
Oh, and there was something more behind the entrance, but it was just a simple puzzle to get a couple of chests. Nothing special, as this network of windmills and fans was the best thing about this shrine.
There were a couple of really good shrines that had electricity as its main element, so it was a bit tough for us to pick out which one to include on this list. What we ended up with though, was the fun and clever shrine called the Whole Picture.
There's pretty much one concept within one big room in this shrine. Along the ground there are electrical circuits that need to be connected in order to open the gate in the middle that separates you from the Sheikah monk.
But you can't open it right away. You need to use what you find in the room to connect the circuits to open other gates along the way, which will then give you more metal objects to use in order to open the last one.
These circuits kinda do go through each other, so it's not easy to see which ones are leading where. But we really enjoyed thinking out which ones had to be connected by these crates and barrels in order to progress.
It's a fine puzzle on its own, but if you're clever enough, which pretty much means more clever than us in our first time trying out this shrine, you might think of using your own metal objects, like weapons and shields to connect the dots. It's a simpler way which makes it kinda less fun, but we gotta hand it to the game and how they thought about how much different materials have an effect on other elements. This was no doubt an enjoyable shrine to us though.
We really felt like putting something with fire on this list, and there were some good ones where you had to burn crates, platforms, and leaves to reveal new paths and make stuff fall down and stuff. But we went for one that had a really cool concept, and that both included and was simply named Blue Flame.
The Blue Flame Shrine has a long path where you're supposed to both carry and spread a blue flame all the way until the end. You carry a torch and light other ones on the way up to open new pathways, and you even use the bow and arrow as another method to solve some of these puzzles, cause along the way you'll get hindered by enemies and even water.
This shrine simply made us feel like we were on our way to ignite the Olympic flame. It was a fun thing to do, and we enjoyed figuring out how we were supposed to carry and bring the flame to the next checkpoints without it getting extinguished. And while it has been possible to shoot arrows through fire to make fire arrows in earlier games, we appreciate how you can just walk with the arrowhead into a fire and light it before moving around and shooting it wherever you want.
It's not a very difficult shrine, but the concept was interesting to us. It felt clever with how you had to think a little different for every torch you had to light, and you had to use magnesis for other things than the flames as well. In addition, there are so many chests in here that reward you along the way. It's not often we have open space in our bags, but we appreciate being able to pick up some stuff along the way. For number 1, we picked a shrine that has quite a bit of variation, in the Trial of Power. Even though this one is pretty linear, we like the structure of it. You go through puzzles in a linear pattern, but you go a bit across of the rooms and all around in this big area, so it's not like it's a straight line ahead where everything happens.
To both finish and collect all treasures in this shrine, you need to use almost everything you have on your Sheikah slate. You need to use magnesis and stasis to open doors, magnesis to stop spiked balls hitting you, stasis to keep platforms horizontal, bombs to reveal a chest, weapons to defeat enemies, and fire arrow combos to let boulders fall down, and even motion controls to open another door, which is something at least I enjoyed in shrines.
The puzzles aren't really that tricky, but we like that it has multiple puzzles that require a lot of different strategies and abilities. A lot of them are basically about opening doors, but at least there are different ways of doing that here. This is pretty much the closest we felt to an actual mini-dungeon. We would wish for more, to be honest, but out of the shrines we find in this game, this is the one we rank the highest. Now, on to the shrine quests. At number 5, we have the Recital at Warbler's Nest. We picked this one because we find it pretty adorable. It starts off with Keel, who wants us to find their sisters because they're late for rehearsal. It turns out they're all late because one of them is hungry for a dish that we can't really pronounce, and the rest of them are helping out getting ingredients.
So, you need to find the sisters who are gathering the ingredients first, which is fun in itself. You get hints on their whereabouts around in the village from the sisters, and as you gather all the ingredients and make the dish for Genli, she eats it and they're all ready for rehearsal.
Then they're gathered at Warbler's Nest, and they each take their turn singing a few notes. It's adorable how the notes coming from them have the matching colors of their own feathers. This puzzle actually reminds us a bit of games like Banjo-Kazooie, so it's possible that that plays a part in this shrine quest making its appearance on this list.
But the quest doesn't stop there, as there are 5 stone monuments placed in a circle around the shrine altar, and you need to blow wind with a deku leaf in the right order corresponding to the order of the little birds singing. We liked how this puzzle was, in my experience, a little tough to figure out. I was trying by shooting arrows through the holes at first, so I struggled for a bit. But it's nice that you first needed to find all of them, talk to them, and get to know them a tiny bit before another puzzle appears. All in all, this was an enjoyable shrine quest to us. One of the coolest things I saw as I stepped off of the Great Plateau for the first time was Farosh, one of the 3 dragons that fly around in Hyrule. I must admit that I had seen a picture of Dinral already before the game came out, but seeing Farosh fly over Lake Hylia was truly a sight to behold. There was still one dragon I had not seen though, and when it turned out that there's an actual shrine quest involving the third one, Naydra, I was excited.
There's no wonder that Naydra isn't flying around like the two others when he discovered that the poor dragon is just lying on top of Mount Lanayru, corrupted by the malice unleashed by Calamity Ganon. Your job then, of course, is to rid Naydra of this corruption.
And it feels so badass. At first, it may seem like you just have to shoot the eyeballs while Naydra's just there, but it will start flying around as well, which means that you need to keep moving after it. For each eyeball you get rid of, it will change its position and location, using quite a bit of space around the mountain peak.
Most of the battle takes place in the air, and it's just amazing to see the views of the landscapes around this gigantic, majestic creature with really cool colors fly around. As soon as the corruption is worn off, the colors of Naydra change from dark ones to really bright ones, which really matches the cold environment around. It doesn't feel nice, but when you shoot Naydra with an arrow, its scale falls off, and you can reveal the shrine by placing it in front of the goddess statue.
It's really cool how this shrine quest involves a deity like Naydra, and the way to free it is a lot of fun. The action, the atmosphere on top of this freezing mountain, it all feels so great, and that is why it makes number 4.
Number 3 is the Stolen Heirloom. This one takes place in Kakariko village and is only available after finishing all other side quests within the village.
What's funny here is that in my first playthrough, I went up to the nearby shrine and the fairy fountain and I found this platform. I figured I had to get an orb from somewhere and drop it into place, but I just couldn't find it when I looked around. It took me many hours of gameplay and several visits to Kakariko village until I realized that, oh yeah, it's gotta be that heirloom.
Paya and Impa keep watch over it, but after you do all the side quests helping out the other villagers, the heirloom's been stolen. So it's up to you to play detective and sneak around to see if you find anything suspicious. Which you do, even though you might end up discovering something you weren't looking after.
After witnessing other characters doing something unusual, you're led to the platform I mentioned earlier where Dorian calls out a Yiga clan member, blaming him for stealing the heirloom. It's during this cutscene that it's revealed that Dorian, who is one of the guards outside Impa's house, used to be a member of the Yiga clan. You also get to fight a Yiga Blade Master as he notices your presence.
And that's a cool thing. We rank the Yiga clan as one of our favorite enemies in the game, so we don't say no to a fight. It turned out that the Yiga had been very cruel to Dorian and his family, and the shrine quest is pretty much over at this point. However, we think it's cool to finally see something between these two clans. They're supposed to be total opposites, yet we don't even see anything happen between them other than this shrine quest. We appreciate this one, and it gave us a little more story to Dorian himself and the connection between the two clans, no matter if it wasn't much.
When we also get to sneak around and look for anything suspicious in an event that seems to have shaken the village a bit, we get more enjoyment out of this quest, which is why we include it here at number 3.
Okay, here is one that everyone seems to love. Stranded on Eventide.
This really was an interesting side quest, and we don't feel we need to say a whole lot here, because it's already so popular. But discovering an island in the southeast corner of the world with references to Link's Awakening was a cool thing. It only became even cooler when it turns out that you enter upon a shrine quest that takes all of your armor and weapons away, and you're just running around in your boxers with a task at hand.
Basically, you're stranded on an island with nothing more than your Sheikah slate, and you have to fight for survival. Or at least find 3 orbs and place them at 3 altars. This is a lot of fun, because you have to fight enemies, but since you start from scratch, you might have to rely on defeating your first group of enemies with only a stick as a weapon. You might have to fight off bokoblins, moblins, choo-choos, and even a Hinox in order to complete the task, no matter how powerful you become with your equipment, because not much of that matters here.
It's almost as if you start all over again, but only at this small secluded island, where you start out with basic skills, but gradually become somewhat stronger with better equipment and food along the way. It's a great concept, and a very enjoyable one at that. We mentioned in the dungeon ranking that we really enjoyed the darkness inside Varudania. We wanted that to be used more in this game, and luckily for us, there was a shrine quest that did just that.
Just north of Great Hyrule Forest, there's a little island in a lake that's covered, or should I say, shrouded in darkness. It's so cool to see it from the outside, and it's only cooler if you go in and find yourself surrounded by it. If you cross the bridge and go through the main entrance, you're quickly able to see these little bird statues and torches that can be lit on fire. You can figure out that if you look closely on those statues, they'll point in a direction. Following their directions, you'll go through ruins of different structures and find treasures, minerals and other stuff along the way, before you eventually end up at the place where the shrine is supposed to be.
Or, if you're a little more adventurous like me, you can drop in from a different angle and not knowing where the hell you are or where you're supposed to go, and dress as a luminescent luchador to look like a glowing skeleton. Seriously though, I really enjoyed this approach. I tried using torches and flame swords, and I just tried my best to find a way to go. It was so much fun exploring and swinging my sword to fight off enemies, to then also discover the ruins and whatever else I could see that the darkness kept hidden from me, before I would eventually find the right place.
The end of this quest is also really cool, as you come to a more secluded area only to see something glowing and hearing heavy breathing from a sleeping Hinox that's barely visible by the orb around its neck. It also felt kinda scary to fight in the dark, when all you see is its huge and very visible eyeball looking at you as it comes closer after waking him up. You place the orb on the altar and the shrine appears.
Seriously, we thought the darkness here was so cool like we mentioned before. And being able to explore an island in complete darkness, only lit up by your own torch and the ones you light, maybe in addition to other fire weapons and campfires lying around, was so enjoyable to us. We both easily agreed that this was our favorite shrine quest. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.